Most people believe it takes years to escape a poverty mindset. But what if I told you? Napoleon Hill discovered a protocol that breaks these limiting patterns in just 7 days. After studying over 500 successful individuals across 20 years, Hill discovered something groundbreaking. Poverty isn't about external circumstances, but mental programming. Every great success begins with a conscious decision to break limiting mental patterns. Edison faced over 1,000 failed attempts before inventing the light bulb. Ford was ridiculed when he proposed cars for the masses. The Wright brothers were called crazy for believing humans could fly. But they all had something in common: a reprogrammed mind free from scarcity thinking. In this video, you'll discover exactly what Hill's 5 steps are and how to apply them to your life this week. The most impressive part: when followed correctly, these steps produce visible results in just 7 days. Results that Hill documented in hundreds of real cases. Let's dive into the first step that can transform your mindset once and for all. Step 1. Hill's Mental Reset Protocol. Hill discovered something revolutionary. The poverty mindset works exactly like a computer virus, an invisible program running in the background of our mind, consuming our energy and blocking our potential. This program was installed over the years through experiences, other people's comments, and society around us. But here's the discovery that changed everything. Just as you can reinstall a computer's operating system, you can do a complete reset of your mental programming. Intro end. Intro end. Andrew Carnegie, America's wealthiest man at the time, told Hill, "The mind is like a garden. If you don't deliberately plant seeds of abundance, weeds of scarcity will grow naturally." Hill's reset protocol works in 3 precise stages. Stage 1, detection. During the first 3 days, you become a detective of your own thoughts. Every time a scarcity thought surfaces, you identify it immediately. Stage 2, interruption. The moment you detect the limiting thought, you interrupt it with a powerful question. "I don't have enough money" becomes, "How can I create more value and increase my income?" "That's too expensive for me" transforms into, "How can I become the person who can afford this?" Stage 3, reprogramming. You install the new mental pattern through conscious repetition of the new question. When Hill tested this protocol with hundreds of people, something remarkable happened. The results were consistent regardless of age, education, or initial financial situation. In just 72 hours, people reported a change that they themselves described as astonishing. What once seemed impossible began to seem merely challenging. What was once out of my reach became, "I'll figure out how to do it." Step 2. Hill's goal. Clarity method. Hill discovered that the human mind works like an internal GPS, but only when it receives precise coordinates of the destination. The second step wasn't simply writing, "I want to be rich." That would be like telling your GPS, "I want to go somewhere nice." Hill discovered that the mind needs specific instructions with the same precision an engineer uses to build a bridge. Charles M. Schwab, president of Bethlehem Steel, applied this exact method. In 1901, he set a specific goal: to become the highest-paid executive in America, not just earn more money, but specifically to be the highest paid. Within 2 years, he was earning $1 million annually, an astronomical fortune for that time. Hill's method works with 6 essential components. First, the exact amount you want to achieve. Second, exactly when you want to achieve it. Third, what you're willing to give in return. Fourth, a definite plan to achieve it. Fifth, a written statement of all this. And sixth, reading this statement twice a day. But here's the secret that most people miss. Hill insisted that you must read your statement with emotion and intense visualization. It's not just reading words on paper. It's feeling as if you've already achieved that goal, seeing yourself living that reality, experiencing the emotions of someone who has already reached their destination. Hill documented that people who followed this exact protocol reported dramatic changes in their circumstances within 30 days. Opportunities began to appear, important contacts emerged out of nowhere, and profitable ideas naturally sprouted in their minds. Step 3. Environmental restructuring, according to Hill. Think of your environment as the soil where your mindset grows. Hill discovered something that modern neuroscience confirms. You cannot cultivate an abundance mindset in soil contaminated by scarcity. The third step revealed by Hill was the complete restructuring of your mental ecosystem. He realized it's practically impossible to maintain an abundance mindset when every object, person, and conversation around you reinforces limitation. Henry Ford understood this principle perfectly. While developing the Model T, he surrounded himself exclusively with people who believed in his vision. He removed from his inner circle anyone who constantly discussed limitations, problems, or impossibilities. Ford said, "If you surround yourself with people who talk about poverty, your mind will be conditioned to see poverty everywhere." Hill identified 3 layers of environment that need to be restructured. First, the physical environment, the objects, books, images you see daily. Second, the social environment, the people you spend time with and the conversations you have. Third, the mental environment, the information you consume, the programs you watch, the books you read. But here's where it gets really fascinating. Modern neuroscience explains exactly why Hill was right decades before the technology existed to prove it. Recent research has revealed that our brain possesses neuroplasticity, the ability to physically restructure itself based on repeated experiences. Think of your brain as clay that constantly reshapes itself according to your chosen environment. When you consistently surround yourself with stimuli of abundance, your brain literally reconstructs its neural circuits, creating mental highways that lead to success instead of dead-end paths that lead to scarcity. Dr. Joe Dispenza, a contemporary neuroscientist, has confirmed that environmental changes can produce measurable physical alterations in the brain in just 7 days. This explains why Hill's protocol worked so quickly. What should you do? First, remove from your home everything that reinforces scarcity. Bills in visible places, constant conversations about financial lack, TV shows that glamorize poverty. Second, add elements that reinforce abundance. Biographies of successful people, images of your goals, visual reminders of your dreams. Hill was adamant about this principle. You cannot think thoughts of abundance in an environment of scarcity. It's like trying to fill a bucket with water while there are holes in the bottom. No matter how much water you pour, the bucket will never fill. Now comes a life-transforming question. What kind of mental bucket have you been building around yourself? With these first 3 steps, you've built a solid foundation. The mental reset that reprograms limiting thoughts, the clarity of goals that directs your mind, and the environmental restructuring that sustains your transformation. But here's where everything changes, because the next 2 steps are where Hill documented the most dramatic transformations. The next 2 steps are where Hill witnessed the most dramatic changes. These are the steps that separate those who make incremental progress from those who experience truly revolutionary transformations in their lives. What will you choose? Implement all 5 steps or stop at the first 3? The 4th step involves an action implementation system that Hill called the Magnetic Action Protocol. And the 5th step is the persistence method that ensured people didn't just start, but completed their total transformation. These final 2 steps are where you'll discover how to transform all this knowledge into practical and measurable results in your life. It's where Hill revealed the most powerful secrets he learned studying the brightest minds of his time. The first 3 steps created the foundation. Now comes where Hill observed the most spectacular changes, where mental transformation materializes into concrete and measurable results. Hill discovered that most people fail at precisely this point. They build a solid foundation in the first steps, but cannot sustain the momentum necessary to implement lasting changes. That's why Hill developed these final 2 steps as an implementation system that guarantees not just progress, but permanent transformation of the poverty mindset. Step 4. Hill's Daily Action Implementation System. Here's where Hill made a discovery that few people know. Edison wasn't naturally different from other people. The difference was in the system. Napoleon Hill observed that Edison had developed a specific daily action protocol, a 5-minute morning routine that automatically reprogrammed his mental response to challenges. Hill called this the mental fuel that feeds persistence. When Hill tested this same protocol with hundreds of other people, the results were identical. Edison's genius wasn't a gift, it was a replicable method. Here's exactly how Hill structured this system. First thing in the morning, before checking messages or thinking about the day's problems, you'll implement what Hill called the mental combustion protocol. It's exactly 5 minutes that transform the trajectory of your entire day. Minute 1. Recite your definite major purpose out loud. Don't just think about it. Hill discovered that vocalization activates specific neural circuits that silent thinking cannot access. When Henry Ford verbalized his goals every morning, he was literally installing new neural pathways in his brain. Minutes 2-3. Visualize with precise details having already achieved that goal. Hill observed that the most successful business leaders of his era didn't just vaguely dream about success. They had visualizations so specific they could describe every sensory detail of their achievement. The smell of leather in their executive office, the sound of applause during recognition, the physical sensation of signing major contracts. Minute 4. Identify the most important action of the day that will bring you closer to that goal. Hill discovered that the transformed mind doesn't just think differently, it acts differently and always begins with a specific and immediate action. Minute 5. Declare your anticipated gratitude for the progress you will make today. Hill observed that Carnegie and other business titans always expressed gratitude for results before actually achieving them, creating what he called a mental state of receptivity to success. But Hill didn't stop there. He discovered that this morning protocol needed to be reinforced with what he called mental power checkpoints throughout the day. At noon, take a 2-minute break to repeat your main goal out loud. It doesn't matter where you are. Hill observed that true mental transformers aren't embarrassed by their success rituals. At 6 p.m., reflect on a specific lesson the day has brought you. Hill discovered that the transforming mind doesn't just react to events. It systematically extracts wisdom from every experience, especially from apparent failures. Before sleeping, Hill prescribed what he called the nighttime installation protocol. Visualize your goal as already achieved as you fall asleep. Modern neuroscience has discovered that Hill was right. Our brain processes and consolidates information during sleep, and what we install in the last moments before falling asleep has a disproportionate impact on neural reprogramming. Step 5. Hill's persistence methodology, the 7-day transformation tracker. Here is Hill's most revolutionary discovery, the one that completely changes how we view personal transformation. Persistence is not a personality trait you're born with or not. It's a mental operating system that can be installed, measured, and perfected. Hill developed the 7-day transformation tracker after making a fascinating observation. All the most successful business leaders of the era didn't just work hard, they systematically monitored their mental progress with the same precision a scientist monitors an experiment. And here's what you need to know. When Hill applied this tracking system with ordinary people, they began producing extraordinary results. This is not just an activity log. It's a scientific protocol that Hill used to document hundreds of transformations from a poverty mentality to prosperity. Now comes the system that Hill considered his greatest discovery. Each day, for exactly 7 days, you will record 3 specific elements that function as a transformation thermometer. Why exactly 7 days? Hill discovered that with less time, new patterns don't consolidate. With more time, people lose their initial focus. 7 days is the perfect window for mental transformation to crystallize. First, your morning mental temperature on a scale of 1 to 10. Hill discovered that the transforming mind develops a sharp awareness of its internal state. When you wake up before any external influence, what is your natural confidence level about achieving your goals? Hill observed that this temperature increases consistently day after day when protocols are followed correctly. Second, record your highest impact action of the day. Hill wasn't interested in task lists. He wanted the specific action that brought you closest to breaking free from your limitation mentality. It could be a difficult conversation you initiated, a calculated risk you took, or an opportunity you created instead of waiting for it to appear. Third, note your moment of resistance, because Hill knew that resistance always appears when you're breaking old patterns. But instead of avoiding or denying this resistance, you will document it. Hill discovered that when we name and record resistance, it automatically loses 70% of its power over us. At the end of 7 days, Hill prescribed a specific review. You will compare your mental temperature from day 1 with day 7. Hill documented that this difference always surprises those who follow the protocol correctly. And now comes the secret that Hill discovered but few people know. Prepare for a revelation that can completely change your expectations. Real transformation doesn't happen gradually during the 7 days. It explodes in a single burst at the end of the period when all new neural patterns consolidate simultaneously. Hill called this the consciousness combustion moment. This discovery explains why so many people give up on day 4 or 5. They expect linear progress when true transformation is exponential at the end of the process. Modern neuroplasticity confirms exactly what Hill observed empirically. Our brain needs 7 to 10 days to establish permanent new neural circuits. When we follow Hill's protocol consistently for 7 days, we're not just changing thoughts, we're literally rewriting the neural architecture that shapes our perception of money, opportunities, and our own potential. The complete transformation. Protocol, your intensive practical application. Now you have the 5 exact steps that Hill used to break through hundreds of poverty mindsets. But having the information isn't enough. You need the systematic application that transforms knowledge into concrete results. Let's implement this together right now. Get paper and pen. Let's do your first implementation of Hill's protocol. First, write your main defined objective following Hill's exact formula. I will specific action by specific date because powerful reason. It cannot be vague. Hill discovered that vague objectives generate vague transformations. Now, for the next 30 seconds, close your eyes and visualize having already achieved this objective. See the specific details. Where you are, how you feel, who is with you, what clothes you're wearing. Hill discovered that the more specific the visualization, the faster it manifests in reality. Define your morning schedule for the 5-minute protocol. What time will you wake up to guarantee these 5 minutes before any distraction? Hill observed that those who don't define a specific time never implement consistently. Write down what will be your first highest impact action today. Not tomorrow, not next week, today. Hill discovered that the transformed mind acts immediately because it knows that delay is just disguised resistance. Prepare your 7-day tracker on a simple sheet. 7 columns for each day, 3 rows for mental temperature, impact action, and moment of resistance. Hill used physical trackers because the act of handwriting activates brain areas that typing cannot reach. The scientific validation of Hill's methods. Hill didn't know about neuroplasticity when he developed these protocols, but modern neuroscience confirms every element of his methodology. Dr. Rick Hansen, a Harvard neuroscientist, proved that morning visualization practices structurally alter the prefrontal cortex in just 7 days. Exactly the time frame Hill discovered through observation. Dr. Barbara Fredrickson's Stanford University research demonstrated that anticipatory gratitude increases dopamine production by 23%, the neurotransmitter responsible for motivation and persistence, scientifically, explaining why Hill's protocol works so consistently. Recent studies from London's Neuroplasticity Institute confirmed that vocalizing objectives each morning creates 40% more neural connections than silent thought, validating Hill's insistence on daily verbalization. When Hill documented hundreds of transformations using these 5 steps, he was inadvertently creating the first scientific protocol for neural reprogramming toward an abundance mindset. The difference is that now we know exactly why it works, and we can accelerate the results with applied scientific knowledge. Your transformation begins now, the immediate challenge. Congratulations! You just completed something few people do. Absorbing a complete system of mental transformation validated by decades of results. In the last few minutes, you received exactly what I promised at the beginning, the 5 precise steps that Napoleon Hill used to break through poverty mindsets in just 7 days. You have the mental reset protocol, the objective clarity method, environment restructuring, the daily implementation system, and the persistence methodology, each step tested and validated by both historical experience and modern neuroscience. This isn't common information. It's a mental operating system that transformed hundreds of lives when Hill developed it and continues transforming lives today with scientific backing. But here's the hard truth. Information without implementation is merely intellectual entertainment. And now we come to the most critical moment of this entire video. At this exact moment, you're at a crossroads. The difference between those who transform their mindset and those who remain trapped in old patterns isn't talent, luck, or circumstances. It's a single decision. Implement now or postpone for when I have time. Which path will you choose? The immediate action that Edison, Ford, and Carnegie chose, or the procrastination that keeps 95% of people trapped in the same mental patterns for decades? Here's your immediate challenge. In the next 60 minutes, you will complete your first full implementation of Hill's 5 steps. Define your main objective following the exact formula. Do your first detailed 3-minute visualization. Execute your 5-minute morning protocol. Identify your highest impact action for today, and prepare your 7-day transformation tracker. Hill discovered that those who act within the first hours after learning the method are 300% more likely to complete the total transformation. Why? Because the transformed mind doesn't delay, it implements. If this content awakened something in you, if you feel you're ready to break free once and for all from the mindset that has limited your potential, leave in the comments, "I choose transformation." This public commitment increases your chances of following the complete protocol. And if you want to continue diving into proven methods of mental transformation, subscribe to the channel and activate the bell, because every week we bring specific protocols that connect traditional success strategies with modern scientific validation. Hill proved that in just 7 days, you can completely reprogram patterns that may have limited you for decades. The question isn't whether these methods work. Hill and modern science have already confirmed this. The question is, will you choose to implement like the great transformers of history, or will you remain just knowing?